Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dynamics Corner, the podcast where we dive deep into all things Microsoft Dynamics. Whether you're a seasoned expert or just starting your journey into the world of Dynamics 365, this is your place to gain insights, learn new tricks, and hear from industry experts. And what are we talking about today? New releases to BC are like fresh chapters in an ongoing saga of innovation, each one building on the last to weave a richer narrative of efficiency, capability, and insight for business worldwide. I'm your co-host, Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode was recorded on March 5th, 2024. Kris, what the heck did you just say?
You know, it's Business Central always has new stuff coming out every single time, and it's usually improving things that are already existing or from the last update.
And I might have been a little dry with the jokes, but somebody out there will get them. And spring has sprung. And with that, as you had alluded to, this April, when the spring is here, it's April showers bring May flowers. March comes in like a lamb, goes out, comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb, whatever saying that you have from when we were younger. I am always excited about the new features that are announced and will come out with each of the waves. The next wave is due April 2024, which is 2024 Wave 1. And with us, the opportunity we had, it's all of us are tongue-tied today. With us today, we had the opportunity to speak with Amanda Mayer about her top 4 features in the upcoming release of 2024 Wave 1.
Brad, and she's one of the MVPs.
Kris.
Oh,
we
got
that
an
new
upgrade.
doorbell.
No more knocking.
No, save people's hands. I don't know who that is.
Who's this?
But they're impatient over there. Always ringing that doorbell.
We do have nice leather corner chair. Everyone wants to sit on that.
Yes. Let's see who this is. And look who it is.
Hello.
Whoa. Hello.
Miss Amanda, how are you doing?
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's been so long.
I know. How is the chair? Is it comfy?
The chair? It is okay.
We want people to want to participate in this podcast.
Our leather chair.
It's our leather chair, not your chair. Like, you just... So let's try this one more time. How is the chair?
It's fantastic.
It's great. Good. It's a new chair.
It's a new chair.
Yes, it's a new leather chair. Yeah, good.
I love
You're the
it.
first
It's so
one to sit in it.
comfortable.
Yeah, good.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else we need to put around the chair to make it your stay a little more comfortable?
You know what? Sometimes I like to put my feet up, so like a little footstool or ottoman would be lovely.
Oh, okay.
We could do that. Yeah, we could do that. That would work. We could put a footstool in there because everyone knows that I'm neat and clean and nobody wears their shoes, so it won't ruin the footstool of the ottoman. So,
all right. I mean, I'm wearing slippers. It works.
House slippers. Like, you can't wear.
We can provide the house slippers.
We can get the little
the
things.
Them.
No, you can't bring them because I don't know where they've been.
My house.
I know, but did you know I have like gym shoes too? Like, I have shoes that I only wear at the gym. When I go to the gym, I wear slides. In my bag, I have gym shoes. So I'll go into the
house
room, put my shoes. I don't wear shoes in the house. I used to have house shoes. I have garage shoes.
Nobody should be wearing shoes in their house unless they have like feet and back problems. That's
you have garage shoes
or barefoot.
I do not wear shoes in the house. Nobody, like, you can't make it past the threshold. Like, I have a mat right there. You want me to tackle you? Try stepping off that. I don't care who you are. But no, but I have shoes for different things. I used to wear slippers in the house when it was cool because my feet would get cold because of the temperature. But now I can't wear slippers.
You can't wear slippers now.
No, not here. You kidding me?
Why?
Come on
just
now.
because it's warm there. Come on.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, I have slippers on all year round. But I have an older house, so it stays cool.
When it's sunny and 97,000 outside, your
It's still
house will
cool
not
in my
stay
house.
cool. It will
It's still
heat up.
relatively cool. It's still relatively cool.
Maybe you're
It's like
cold.
the
Maybe you're
plaster walls or
cold-blooded.
something. Keep it. I do actually always have cold hands and feet.
It just means you have warm heart.
I was just gonna say, my mom used to say that to me all the
Okay.
time.
Next, moving on. Amanda, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Welcome back. Thank you for commenting on the nice new plush chair that we picked out. We did a little remodeling over the weekend, and we'll put an ottoman or a footrest on the list so that the guests can be even more comfortable. But, you know, it's springtime. We're talking about the weather. And one nice thing about spring is that in April, we've all been trained and we've all learned that Microsoft releases the Wave 1 of the year. This year, it's 2024 Wave 1 of Business Central. We'll expect to have Wave 2 in October. And at the time of this recording, the public preview, I should say, was released yesterday. And one thing I know that you're anxious to talk to us about is Amanda's top. How many? 3, 5?
I think I have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, do have 5.
Okay, 5. See, Amanda's top 5 new features or planned features, because again, this is pre-release of the 2024 Wave 1, so you can go based on what is scheduled for the Wave and their release dates, and it may or may not be in the preview at this point, but I was looking forward to talking with you about this all day. But before we get into that, you know the drill, because you are a veteran. Could you please tell everybody a little bit about yourself before we get into your top 5?
I can, but I have something I'd like to do even before that.
Because if it's what I think it is, do it.
Yeah. Even before that, because it's been a little bit since we've all chatted. And since the last time we chatted, I think 2 very important things happened.
What is that?
The 2 of you have joined the MVP ranks. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We appreciate
now
it.
we
Thank
do
you
anything and everything we can to continue to re-earn
it. Keep doing what you're doing.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Just doing what you're doing. Much deserved.
I know but I can't always speak for Kris, but we do have conversations periodically, believe it or not. But we do everything we do personally as well for the community. I spent my entire career in it, and now I feel that it's time to give back for the life and the continued growth of the application that afforded me the opportunity to sit and talk with many other members.
Absolutely.
So we will keep doing what we're doing until we can't anymore. I guess that's what you say.
Indeed.
So a little bit about me.
Yes.
I am an MVP, but just recently doing everything I can to keep that.
Congratulations.
Giving back. But I am an accountant by trade. That's where my education is. I've been using Business Central /NAV since 2009. When I started in a company as a financial analyst that I eventually became the corporate controller for, and had to figure out how to use a lot of underutilized functionality, intercompany consolidations, those types of things. And so found the user group and connected with other users. And since that point have just continued to build my own knowledge in those areas so that I can share it with other people. But in 2017, I became a consultant. So I'm no longer an end user. In the same sense, my role in my company also, we use Business Central, but my primary role now is a consultant, and that is I take it very seriously from the standpoint of I want people to have the best experience that they possibly can in Business Central. And so that's my goal always when looking at what the new features are as well. I want to see how I can improve other people's lives.
It says
I
a
like
lot.
that.
It says a lot that you use Business Central internally as well as implement Business Central. I've come across various software products, various members of the world, not necessarily the Business Central community, that are selling a product and they don't use it themselves, or they're using a competing product. And I
Yeah.
scratch my head for a moment and I say, self, if it's not good enough for them to use, why would I want to use it? Like, it's almost
Yeah.
like a trust thing. And if you use it, you can say firsthand from experience how you feel about something or how it works for you, or you can provide better feedback, because from the implementation point of view, if you just work with it for demonstration or setup or something, you don't go through the day-to-day operations of it, and something may seem fluid, efficient, or the like, and then you realize that it may not be if you had to do it day to day. So it does say a lot when I come across individuals that implement a product or sell a product. It doesn't necessarily have to be Business Central, as I had mentioned, and they use it themselves.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think what's interesting is that a lot of, I'll call them shops, um, also have many products, maybe even within the same um, line, meaning Microsoft, right? You'll see some shops have Business Central, F&O, and GP. And what I find interesting, to your point, is how do you fully know, even if you are using one of them, how do you fully know and understand the other two? But on top of that, I think that's going to happen regardless. But on top of that, what I also really think is important from my experience and being able to share it is that I was an end user first. And I'm not an engineer. Engineers are great. And I work with a lot of engineers, but I think as long as we also have the ability to like sprinkle in people with industry experience as well, the overall functionality, the knowledge of how a business itself works, and pairing that with the knowledge of how the product works is
That is
critical.
2 points tonight, Chris, that our guest gets, because I believe in that as well. And it's not
Yeah.
only because I've done it and Chris has done it.
Yeah.
I've worked for customers managing and an internal system, with working with partners to implement Navision, whatever it was at the point. And I know Chris also did at one point as well. I do think it gives you a better perspective when you want to do implementations from the other side. I went back and forth. I went partner, customer, and having the viewpoint from both sides, I think, helps add to the value of what you can bring to an implementation, because you understand that perspective and that point of view. So, wow, this is good. This is insightful.
I agree, 100%.
So this is
very helpful.
Amanda's top 2 tips for how to have a successful Business Central implementation.
It's all you need.
It's just 2 tips.
Just those 2 top tips. There's lots of sub tips under there, obviously. Like keeping up with the Joneses. No, not the Joneses. Keeping up with Microsoft and all of their wave releases and feature releases. And I'm going to correct myself. I said 5. It's 4. I have 5 tabs open because I was looking at all of the features.
I thought you were an accountant.
You know what? Here's a big shock that most people, there's 2 revelations about accountants that most people like get a little bit shocked about. Number 1, accounting is not as much about the numbers as it is about regulations and policies. how you're supposed to record the numbers, for example. And second of all, we all use products now that do all the math for us. So I have to use a calculator or Excel to do math that as a high schooler I could do in my head.
It's not just pluses and minuses.
It's not just
Accountants?
pluses and minuses. No.
It's the process and operations and everything else in between.
Everything,
So
right?
2 plus 2 doesn't have to equal 5 if it rounds. I mean, geez, 2 plus 2 doesn't have to equal 4 if it rounds to 5. It's okay. I did that on purpose, by the way, just to let you know.
I figured. Right. So new things that I'm interested in.
Okay, so wait, who's running this show? Okay, so now,
I don't know.
Amanda,
Tell me.
wave
You asked me.
1,
She's sitting in a
2024.
chair.
What are
Brand new
your
chair.
top 4 favorite features of the upcoming release of Business Central? What is tip number 1?
Tip number 1 is
You have to let me do the drum rolls for these. Today we're back onto the soundboard because I'm
love
excited.
deferral codes in purchase and sales journals. So previously,
That sounds so complicated.
it sounds so complicated. So to catch you up to speed on what a deferral code is.
That you read my mind. I was going to ask you, what is a deferral code?
Deferral codes are utilized to do things to amortize either purchases or revenue, like expenses or revenue, over a period of time. A good example of an expense deferral would be an annual subscription to something that you pay upfront, right? Let's say you pay $12,000 for something for the year, and you want to amortize that expense over the 12 months of that year. Basic accounting principles, which is not math, is to match your revenue and expenses. So I should amortize that over 12 periods. In the past, before deferrals came into play, which they've been there for a few years now, but only in documents, you would have to manually amortize them through a recurring journal every month. With deferral codes, you can now create and add that deferral code to the document and say, this is when the period starts and it's for 12 months. And you can define, is it based on the posting date or the document date or the next month? And the system will calculate the deferral schedule. The one downside to it is that you do have to have all of those future periods open. So I think that Microsoft could certainly do a little tweak there. And I've told them that, but you can get that. So you have a prepaid for month 1, and then it'll amortize it over the next 12 months.
So that is, so it posts the transactions. So if you pay $1,200 for a year subscription to a software such as your ERP system, you could enter it today and you could defer it over 12 periods and it would post $100 into the future periods.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if it's pre-posting the recurring journals.
Yes, almost. And in
And
the
you gotta
past,
leave it open.
it doesn't leave it open, right? It actually, that's the critical piece of how deferrals work, is it actually posts all of the transactions when you post the document.
So it gives you the ins and the outs, as I call it. So you don't just have 13 transactions. You have how many?
26 at a minimum, because you have the 2 per month for a 12-month period, plus the original transaction that then gets reversed. Like, Business Central always does extra transactions. So even if you say I want to defer something starting immediately, like the posting date, it first records the entire deferral, and then it backs out the portion for the period in which you've posted it. So a minimum of 26 lines, but it could be more depending on taxes, all sorts of other things.
That does sound like a good feature. And with it doing all the transactions for you,
it does
you don't
all
have
of them.
to think about it and you don't have to remember it.
Yeah. So bringing that functionality into the purchase and sales journals provides a couple of additional functionalities that didn't exist before. The first being that you could only get to deferrals in postings really through those documents. Now you can post a purchase journal and defer it. So let's just say you're a company that actually does expenses in Business Central against the employee records instead of against vendor records. Now, Brad, you are for some reason buying that subscription directly instead of having the company buy it. So I can now do it through the employee journal, the purchase journal for your expenses. I'm going to reimburse you for the full amount, but the company doesn't have to do any manual activities to get that amortized. It's also just that if you decide to use a purchase journal versus a purchase invoice for whatever reason, or a sales journal versus a sales invoice, right? So I can also see this being utilized to correct things that have not been properly deferred. So if someone accidentally expensed the whole thing, I can now, in a journal, instead of doing a credit memo and a new invoice, I should be able to correct it right in a purchase journal, which is a lot less overhead than going through an entire document.
My mind
Save you a lot of
is
time.
thinking about this. I wonder if I could use Business Central at home.
You mean for your own checking account type concept?
I haven't written a check, and I can't even tell you how long. I don't even know what my checkbook is.
Called, though. We should probably call them something else, right? Most people don't cut checks anymore. But
I do mostly debits or EFT.
Yeah, you could. Funny story. When I first graduated college, my first job, I didn't even tell you, Brad. You could have at least waited until I told you the story.
Sorry. I got trigger happy over here.
You got very happy.
You were lucky because I haven't used this in a long time, and now I'm on a roll.
You're on a roll. My first job out of college was actually not in accounting. I was a software consultant for accounting application. And here's what I'll tell you. I learned how to become an accountant so long ago that I never touched a piece of software to do it before I graduated college. So I learned how to be an accountant on paper.
The T accounts on the graph paper, or the what was the grid paper called?
The ledger paper.
Yes, the ledger paper. I remember that. And you had I used to use one of those.
Yeah. So this is how I became an accountant. I went to school for that. My first job, they specifically hired me because I was an accountant, and this product was called Real World. It was a DOS version, very similar to what Business Central does.
Real World?
I remember this. This is like a walk down memory lane.
Yeah. Also, it would integrate with a point of sale called Counterpoint.
I don't remember that. I remember Real World.
I didn't know anything about the product, and frankly, I didn't know anything about like software in that sense. And so I was going to have to do on-the-job training. And the office manager had been working with this product for so long, she knew it in and out. Like, she could have been a software consultant. And so she gave me my first task. And that was to set myself up as a business in the system, right? So like chart of accounts, debits, credits, checking account, because I did cut checks then. But 6 months into the job, I struggled a lot. And about 6 months into the job, we had gotten past all that. I was getting very good at the product. I understood it, and we had become friends. And she said to me, I got to tell you something. And I said, oh God, what? You started that way. She's like, when you started, I thought you were an idiot. And I said, oh, okay. She's like, you couldn't even set up the chart of accounts. And I thought, what an idiot. And I'm like, you have to understand, I did everything on paper. I didn't know what I was doing. So was
that timing correct?
Yeah, that was great. Considering how much I feel confident in my expertise is sought out, like I started very, very rough in software. Then I went into accounting for many years and then got back into software. So
Here you are.
And here you
Here you
are
MVP.
talking to us too. Ready to tell
Talking to you.
us tip number 2.
Tip number 2.
Did you hear that?
So tip number 2 is related to consolidations, which I know we're going to do a session, hopefully in the not too distant future,
If
about
you don't
that.
keep rescheduling.
If I don't keep rescheduling, and I apologize, it's my fault. So anyways, there is additional functionality being brought into the consolidation process, specifically related to foreign currency translations. So many people who have to consolidate entities will have to consolidate entities that are in a currency that is not equal to their home currency. For example, a US-based company owns a Canadian company. The Canadian company does all of its business or most of its business and has its books in Canadian dollars. When I bring that into my consolidation company, it needs to be translated into US dollars. So that functionality has always existed in Business Central. It was just somewhat clunky. And so they have, they're making changes to this. This is one that I have not had a chance yet to look at. However, they're making that process easier instead of having to do this like one-on-one manual currency update to make that process much faster. So I'm excited about that one, and we'll actually hope to preview that when we do the consolidation process podcast, so you can actually see how that functionality works.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. And as
I think it's really good.
As we're talking, the list is amazing. I don't know how you came up with 5, to be honest with you. Like only 5. I'm not saying
Only 5.
Yeah, 5
There's
isn't
a lot
stretch.
of other good things.
There's a lot of little things to make the business, someone's business life easier. I've started playing with it before the preview, and now that the preview's out, I've been working with all of these a little bit more. But I think the deferral codes and the consolidations, which I'm looking forward to see a demonstration of or have a discussion on, is great. I'm wondering, Kris, if she's going to pick some of ours, right? So mine are always more on the development and technical because that's something near and dear to me. But I also appreciate the functionality or the application specific or the user interface changes as well. So what do you have for number 3?
Number 3. General ledger account revaluation. So in the past, if you wanted to have currency revaluations, you would have to use like a bank account to be able to do that. You had to set up a bank account. So for example, my US-based company, maybe they have a Canadian loan or line of credit. The only way that you could do that and get proper exchange gain or loss calculations in the past was to create a bank account and then link the GL account to it, which for some things just doesn't make any sense. This is not, a loan really isn't a bank account, right? So what they've done now is they've brought currency into the GL. So I can now set up a GL account with a specific currency and then revalue it. So my line of credit for Canadian dollars in my US company can be its own GL account. And you could do a GL account by currency. So if I had two different lines of credit in Canadian dollars, if I really wanted to, I could have them as a single GL account, maybe with a dimension that identifies the difference in balances. I would do that, do all of my transactions against that GL account in Canadian dollars. The system already knows how to post that to the GL account in US dollars. And then there is a new function that allows me to revalue that GL account based on the exchange rates that are in the system at the end of the month. So I now have more flexibility in how I utilize currency revaluation for things that are not specifically bank accounts, customers, or vendors. Additionally, because they've added that, they've added fields that tell you the original currency that the transaction was in the GL. which did not exist
My
either.
mind is blown because I'm used to everything in the jail being in the local currency and the currency
local
conversion
currency.
happening before, and then you had the exchange rates. Now you can do it in the general ledger. They're really expanding this to allow for different size companies or companies that work and deal internationally. I see a lot of features coming over the last couple of years, along with a lot of the niceties of, you know, the application and the user interface. They are doing a lot with on top of country and regional settings, allowing for multinational or worldwide transactions in multiple currencies.
They are. And the functionality, like really the basis of currency in the system has been there, I think, since the beginning, or at least very early on. Since I've been using it, currency transactions have always been available, just only at certain levels.
Yes.
Right.
And
so you do those workarounds, like create a bank account for something so you can get the exchange gain or loss at the end of the month.
Yes. I mean, you had reporting currency too on the general ledger, but it's different than what you're explaining to, which is...
Yeah, I mean, reporting currency is largely for companies that, let's say that Canadian company that is owned by a US parent, if for some reason the US parent requires that Canadian company to be able to produce a financial statement in US dollars, for example, that's how they would do it.
Okay.
Even before consolidation.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Yeah.
Let's see if I have a different sound.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready. Like, I am so full of energy tonight that I have to say, what is tip number 4?
No drum rolls?
Were you counting? 1, 2, 3, 4.
1. Okay.
Wait.
You will probably
Hold on, we'll
not
try
be
this again.
surprised by
What is tip number 4?
It's the end of the world? Is that what's happening?
It's not supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be exciting.
Oh,
It's supposed to be exciting. Why did we go away from the drum rolls? I don't understand.
because I saw Chris doing something. You know what he was doing?
What?
He was texting me.
I'm not even typing.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I feel badly for those that are listening to this. I'll become serious now.
We're clearly having a good time.
Well, accounting's boring, so I'm trying to liven it up a little bit.
Are you saying that I'm not doing a good enough job of making this interesting?
No, you're doing a great job. I appreciate the explanations and the real world examples, because that's what we need to have. Is sometimes you read the release notes or what's planned, or
they don't tell you anything.
They give you the business value, but the business value is setting up a deferral code on a journal allows you to set up a deferral code on a journal.
You're right. Well, that tells you nothing.
I'm just going to get Chris. We have to edit that out. I'm going to be blasted for saying that.
You know, it's an opinion, and it is read the way you just said. So
it is. I will say this: the documentation, anyways, maybe not necessarily the release notes documentation, but the overall documentation has improved a lot over the.
You have no idea the
more
documentation now. I don't know if there's just because there's energy behind it. I know Kenny's doing a ton of documentation. I know from the development point of view and the functional point of view, but they did open it up to also allowing members of the community to add additional comments, examples, or verbiage. I've found a few typos I was able to submit and get corrected just to make for better quality documentation. But over the past couple of years, the documentation has got far better and more usable to where you can reference it and give it to people, and it's meaningful. That right there, we make jokes or jest about what the business value is and how they explain the release plans, but the actual factual learned documentation for how to do something is improving, and is improving fast, right? It's not like we have to wait and wait. I mean, if you look at the GitHub repo where they have the documentation in there, you can see some of the changes that are being made to those documents. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they're adding scenarios too, right? In some documents, they have scenarios so that people can actually picture that or actually see it. So, it'll take some time, but much better.
Leaps and bounds. Much better. I agree. So number 4, you probably will not be surprised by this, is related to currency as well. So they
More
have
currencies.
It's all about currency today, I guess. Well, and deferrals. They have brought into the functionality for employees using currency. So if you remember my example earlier about Brad buying something that needs to be amortized and therefore a deferral code used for it, we are reimbursing Brad by using employees and purchase journals in the system. Previously, if Brad had spent Canadian dollars instead of US dollars, I would only be able to enter that in US dollars and not in Canadian and allow it to translate. So they've brought in the currency concept into employee expenses. How we utilize that internally is we have customers that are both US based and Canadian based. If I'm on a Canadian based customer, I need to be reimbursed in US dollars, but I spend all of my money in Canadian. So I want to be able to record it in the Canadian so that when it passes to the customer, we're not doing multiple currency translations, right? We're actually charging them the Canadian dollars that I spent, but I actually get reimbursed in the proper US dollar value and vice versa. So now you spend Canadian in a US company, you can actually record the Canadian value of it.
So you don't have to do the exchange rate stuff.
You don't.
So simplifying that. Okay.
Simplifying it. And it's interesting too because I've been working with Continue on some of their functionality to allow Canadian customers to utilize their product a little easier. And one of the things that I said to them at the end of last year when we were working on some other stuff is, oh, hey, if you can bring currency into the employees, that'd be really great. And then the release wave came out with the notes. I'm like, oh, hey, you don't have to do that anymore. Just now make sure that your product uses it properly. So it's pretty exciting.
I think he owes me a beer.
Who owes you a beer? Mark?
Chris?
Kristoffer? Yeah, I think Kristoffer owes me a beer.
I've spent a lot of time talking to Joseph. He and I have had many discussions about how to make the product better for Canadian customers. In fact,
does he owe me a beer?
He owes me a beer.
Oh, well, that doesn't help me.
Mark Rhodes owes us a beer.
I think Mark owes me a beer. I think I just say Mark owes me a beer. So when you talk with Mark or Chris next, just say Brad said you owe him a beer.
I will.
Please.
I'm going to text him after
Text him right now. See what he says. Well, maybe while you get number 5.
Remember, number 5, I lied. I only have the 4, but I'd be curious to hear.
Oh, I forgot.
So I know because I lied to you at the beginning.
Nobody likes a liar.
I can't count. I can't count, but I had 5 tabs open, but only 4 of them were. I mean, I could go look right now.
I have some that I like. The development ones I want to defer to a future date, but I like the push for jobs to projects. I think the expansion and paying attention to that portion of the application. I'm certain there's going to be some issues with this after this big jump, just even from the coding point of view, because it's projects and they're just basically recaptioning it as jobs. But I think, as jobs to projects, rewind. But I think that paying attention to that portion is going to bring the application a little bit further for that space. And so that whole push for some of the functionality that you'll be able to have within projects is nice. There's a lot with that. The expansion of the reporting, they added a bunch of Excel layout reports. One thing I did see in the preview when I was playing with it yesterday that I really liked is something simple and small. Is the analyze views. And now, the analyze views with the pages, they changed it from that little slider button to like an actual icon. So it's a little bit nicer looking. Is one of the things I liked. Some of the governance things I like that I'm interested in playing with is Kris and I were talking about this earlier, the encryption of data at rest with the customer key. We're starting to get in some governance and administration, and also the ability to move a customer's environment. That's a big one for me.
Yeah.
The moving of the customer's tenant is something that I think is a big improvement and much needed. I could keep going on and on. Kris, did you have anything that you want before I continue?
There's usually the more of a user experience, right? Because that's typically what kind of drives people's acceptance of a new product. So, I think they were able to do multi-attachment, multiple files or something like that. You can drag and drop, it's been asked not too long ago to be able to do that. So that's being added. And then error details, you no longer have to, have to look, can you repeat that? Or can you send me a screenshot? It's all done within Business Central, and then be able to share it via email or I think Teams as well. So that's super
big
helpful.
For support and for help and just for easier management.
Do you know what would be interesting?
And also taking you to help correct the error if possible too.
Yeah.
That's another big, it's each wave I just get overly excited. But also on the flip side, my brain, I'm old now. My brain can only hold so much.
Take so much.
So as something comes in, something has to go out. I'm just afraid of what's going out on the other side.
I got so distracted by like the functionality ones that I didn't even get all the way down to the user experiences one.
That's right. Kris has you covered.
I think would be, this is a good one. I think it would be interesting to integrate DevOps into that error sharing.
GitHub.
GitHub.
GitHub. Well, so a lot of people are using DevOps.
I understand, but I said GitHub.
That. Yeah. Great. Don't just shoot me down. Add GitHub as well.
I didn't shoot you down.
Why can't we have both?
You get both.
Get both. Anyways.
No, you can't.
Also related to like sharing things, I have a customer who they're upgrading to BC SaaS from Nav on-prem. And they extensively used the notifications. Do you remember this? The notifications where you could like tag a single user.
Yes. Yep.
In the notes.
Yes.
They extensively use them. Okay. There's no replacement functionality for this. Not really. Except for maybe Power Automate workflows and sharing to teams. So what's interesting about that is I have not had many customers really buy into that notification process, and they are extensively using it. And it's an interesting thing to look at with now all the new features. What is the right way to replace that?
I guess it depends on their use case. Because you're right. When I remember a notification, I have very few people that use it.
I'm sorry, Kris. I have some ideas, but I'd have to charge you for it.
Oh, is that not what we're talking about here? We talk about how we use the system.
Oh,
I also have some ideas. We can have.
I'm just kidding. I'm done with my jokes for the evening. I'm sorry, Kris. Continue. Somebody brought the fun sponge.
No,
wait, she's an accountant. That's right. That's why.
Rude.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to get slammed at the conference, but I forgot that you do roller derby. I'm all over. I'm done now. I'm done. I'm getting a flying elbow to the head.
Like, you're directly behind me.
No, I'm done. I'm done being.
Mama, demand a meeting.
What is it? Crass. What is it? What is the word? I can't even think. See that word left.
Crass.
Crass.
I don't think you're being crass. I think maybe just The jokes are falling a little flat today, Brad, more than normal.
Oh.
That's it.
I think
It's the end of the day. It happens.
no, it is the end of the day.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Speaking of customer implementations, I do have a question
Yeah.
for you, and I want you to think about this.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
You've been working with the application since Ledger Paper, or you've been working with accounting since Ledger Paper, and you've worked for customers and implementing the application. I'm curious to hear your worst, or what stands out in your mind. You may have had worse or not, but what is your worst implementation story?
Worst implementation story. I don't know. This isn't an implementation story, but it is a story about Business Central and supporting it, or NAV. A customer who needed to do a full inventory count. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think that they use the advanced inventory count from InsightWorks, which I like a lot. It has a lot of really cool features. And I made it very clear to this customer that, like, you need to stop your operations, you need to count, you need to evaluate it, you need to post it, and then you can start your operations again. And they said, we absolutely cannot do that, especially for this site. It's going to take us time, but we'll try to get it done within 24 hours. And it took them more than 24 hours. And they're like, we really got to get this posted. And I said, this is going to be a problem. It's many days now since this actually happened. And they said, no, we just have to do it. So we did it. And because many days transactions have happened afterwards, it like got rid of the inventory, which it's the way it's supposed to be done, right? Like, because you're not supposed to do that. Anyways, the problems that caused for that customer, I mean, they really created the problem themselves, but there was no way around it other than to say, you got to recount. And they just said they couldn't do it within the time frame. Having to deal with the situation that created was probably one of my most difficult situations since being a consultant.
How long did it take you to? Do you end up preparing anything that?
No, I mean, they were able to go and find, the inventory values of like the receipts that had happened, right? It was largely the receipts that were the issue. So they were able to find the receipts that had happened and adjust inventory back, but they had a lot of inventory. They had a lot of SKUs.
Yeah.
So that's the cautionary tale of not paying attention to inventory counts should actually be done in a finite amount of time where no other transactions are happening, just because the system doesn't work that way. I think that's probably my worst.
Well, thank you for sharing that experience with us. We do appreciate that. And also, thank you for sharing your top 4 tips for 2024 Wave 1 release of Business Central. With that, we're coming up upon conference season, as many people call it. But to me, it seems like all year is conference season now, outside of the Christmas and New Year holiday season. Are you heading to Summit, Directions, Dynamics Con? Which conferences are up on your schedule?
Yeah, so I'm definitely doing Dynamics Con in May.
Not going
I
now.
have 2 sessions. What'd you say?
Not going now.
You're not going? I'm going. No, in May. It's March right now.
That was a bad joke. Because you're going, I'm not going to go any longer.
Oh, you're not going.
I am going, so I will see you there.
There's just something about the jokes tonight, Brad.
I know, they're way off. I feel like
maybe it's me.
we might not even publish this episode. They're so bad.
Oh God, you have to. You can cut out spots, right? Anyways, Dynamics Con, I have 2
It'll be the
sessions
Kris and Brad podcast. We'll cut out Amanda. How was that joke?
Just your responses to me.
We'll fill it in with like a Chat GPT robot or something. Oh, this is our guest tonight. It's a AI generated person. I apologize. No, I will see you at DynamicsCon.
Quite all right. It's good. Yeah, I have a couple of sessions. Plus, I think they're doing an Ask the Experts or something too. And then For Sure Summit in October. I don't usually go to directions. We split up those responsibilities. So the partner in charge of our practice will be going instead. I like to focus on the end user stuff myself.
That's good.
So, and then, I haven't heard back, but, I submitted content for the Dynamics Roadshow, which is for the Chicago one. We'll see.
So you'll be doing some user groups. You'll be hitting DynamicsCon live in May,
In Denver.
as well as Summit in October. And during the month of April, you'll be working with the release of Wave 1 in preparation for your presentations in May. And with that
is absolutely true.
Yes, and with that, how can someone get in further contact with you to learn more about bad jokes, roller derby, your top tips for 2024 Wave 1, or anything else of the great things that you're doing that doesn't even sound like a proper sentence for the Business Central community?
Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn, Amanda Mayer CPA, or no, Amanda Mayer. I think Amanda Mayer CPA is my Twitter.
We'll look it up and post the links to that for you.
Yeah, post the links. And then my email address is Amanda.Mayer. That's Mayer @lidd.com, lid.com. I'd be happy to chat with anybody who wants to drop me a line. Especially if they want to talk about how amazing, deferral codes are in sales and purchase journals.
And currency.
And currency. I'm like, look, multi-currency, multi-company, and consolidations are literally the things that they are what started me on becoming an expert in the product in those areas, because they were the things that there was not a lot of in the US. Like, I'm sure outside of the US, those things were being utilized a lot, but in the US, there was not as much. And so I'm really excited to see them continuing to invest in those things.
Me too. I'm happy to see the product moving forward and some of the other things that will be added as part of this wave and the future waves. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda, thank you very much for enduring. See, I know these words now.
Enduring and enduring.
It's an endearing conversation. You are enduring these flat jokes. Kris, I don't know. I have to practice. I think it's maybe because I moved again where I'm sitting.
What? Oh, you moved where you're sitting.
No, if I move again, listen.
He's always moving. He's always moving.
I'm always moving around. I'm all over the place. If I move again,
different mics.
I'm not moving.
I do have to say, I'm a little sad that you didn't notice that I have a new painting.
I was just about to ask.
Hold on, let me zoom in.
I noticed it, but we're so into this new wave release.
So what? Okay, you have a new painting.
And Brad's flat jokes.
Yeah, you have a new painting. Can you take it off the wall and bring it closer to the camera for me, please?
You want me to bring it closer? Here we go.
You painted that?
Did you paint that?
I painted this, yes.
Wow.
Well, that's a nice painting. Did you do it like a wine and paint? What do they do with those things?
Yeah. I have a group of friends. It's a sip and paint, but we do it ourselves. We don't go.
What is the painting of? Wait, it's a sip and paint and you do it yourself? So does that mean you guys just buy bottles of wine, go in your kitchen and paint?
Buy canvas and paintbrushes?
I mean, there's all sorts of artists on YouTube that walk you through how to paint a picture. So this was a YouTube.
That's great.
A YouTube instruction. It's like two people on some foreign planet. There's a nebula right there. Anyways.
That is great.
So yeah, we make it our own little party. We are in somebody's house. We paint for a few hours, have cocktails and, snacks, little hors d'oeuvres while we're doing it. And then every single time I do it, there will be a new painting right there. So you can see,
You keep track
last
of it.
time
And
I
we'll
I
see
like
if we're
that.
paying
was
attention.
See, we will pay attention now. So before we do the consolidations, you need to have another painting. Kris, we have to do that.
Well, I don't know if that'll
We should do
happen,
like
but
a live code, like on YouTube, and people
I
can
just
follow
change
along.
color in my background. That's what I do.
wait, you changed the color of your background?
Well,
No.
like my light, right?
Oh,
I just changed that light
you got
color.
mood lighting is what's happening there.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
Business
saying
Central
anything.
color, I think.
Business is kind of Business Central color.
I'm not saying a thing.
Hopefully it
Brad
comes through.
is very plain. I don't know how I feel about your background, Brad.
Listen,
Like,
I'm trying to set up where I want to sit for these podcasts.
The studio.
Yes, in my move, where I was before, I had a separate room, which was what I would call a studio, because it was set up specifically for the podcast. The scenery, the environment, it was basically an empty room other than the material. Here, I decided not to do that and thought I could share it partially. And I'm finding that it's not as easy to do. So maybe I'll move again so that I can get another studio.
If you have your background, make sure you get a leather chair. I have a leather couch. See it?
ooh,
You should do the
Dynamics
podcast
corner.
from that couch one day.
Chair.
yeah.
I would love to. I just have to get like a stand and get the laptop.
We made the
closer and all that
mistake
stuff.
when I was there. We should have recorded the two of us sitting on the couch.
That would have been cool because it is a leather
And we could have
corner
sat
in the
and
corner.
did like intros, outros, and outtakes. But with
That would have been good.
I think it would have been good. Well, Amanda, thank you again for taking the time to speak with us this evening, including the bad jokes. Time is not something that we all have a lot of extra of, and you don't get it back. So we are greatly appreciative of anybody that wants to spend any of their time with us, because that is something that they can't bring back. So thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we look forward to speaking with you soon, as well as speaking with you at the conference. And please ensure that you tell Mark, Kris, and everybody else at Continue that they owe me a beer.
Yeah, I didn't get a response back from Mark, so I don't know. We'll see.
He went to bed. He already drank it. He drank it all.
He drank it all. We'll see. Well, thank you for having me. Bad jokes aside, I always enjoy having a quick chat with the two of you. I will do it as long as you will have me.
Yeah, we will have you on again.
We'll have to have you back.
Thank you again.
Consolidation next time.
That's it. Talk with you later.
Yes.
Ciao, ciao.
Yep. Bye.
Bye, Amanda.
Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, matalino.io. And my Twitter handle is matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care. Bloopers.
What? That was me. Girl, you didn't think we on Spotify? Come on now.
Wait, what?
You'd be like an Easter egg.
Are you going to ask us what the name of this podcast is?
No. I know what the name of it is, but there's a lot of.
There's a
will
lot
be
of what,
added
Spotify's?
at the very end of the episode. Oh man.
There's a lot of people, or a lot of ones that have similar names. This is what I'm saying. Wait, I got it. I got it.
Dynamics Corner. I searched for it
Yeah,
on
you know
Spotify. It
why?
comes right up.
Oh, you know why? Because whenever I post about you, I do say Dynamics Corner, but I also call you the Dynamic Duo. So that's actually where I started my search. It's my fault.
Dynamicduo.com on top of
Batman.
dynamicscorner.com.
We should get that, Chris. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's already taken. Chris, I'm Batman. You're Robin. Dynamic Duo. Get it?
I'm Robin.
Chris, we
Is
need
that
to
how
get
he
a
sounds like?
We need to get a Batman and Robin costume. This Dynamics Con, they have these superheroes things. Let's do it.
Dude.
You
No,
should.
seriously, let's do it.
You should.
All right.
We'll show up as Batman and Robin. With little tights and all.
Do it. Oh,
little
yes.
tights and all. Let's
Yes,
do
please. Do it.
it. For that
Oh,
first
man.
night when they have that intro thing, we'll just roll in Batman and Robin. I'm not even kidding.
All right, you start looking for the costume.
Amazon, Chris. We can find
I will-
costumes.
I will be the person who like immortalizes this. I'll record it for you.
Okay. Well, we'll coordinate with you.
Yeah.
And you'll have to be like, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No. It's Batman and Robin, the Dynamic Duo.
No. Brad. I don't know. Because you're your own version of Batman.
We can be great. See, too bad. Do we have time to get suits made? It'd be Bradman. And we have to come up with like Robin and Chris. Yes. It's Bradman and Chris.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man. See, the fun we could have.
If people are still sticking around listening to this way after post-credit scene, you can make us costumes. We'll take it.
Too bad we missed half of the post-credits conversation. But
Hey,
we
we'll
do
take it.
need to have costumes. We can't tell you what the costumes are going to be.
But you know what? That's the next time we do have to leave the recording going, right? So we can get.
We say this all the time, which is why we start the recording before people even come on, because we miss. We don't miss.
You forget to start it.
We have to stop recording, Chris, when the person leaves. That's the new thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna get up and leave. That's when you.
Well, no, you have to leave. Like,
Oh man.
I'm just gonna.
This is gonna
like,
be funny. Easter egg post-credit scene, Marvel style.
yeah.
This
All
is
right.
what happens.
That's on
This is
that
what
note.
happens.
I do have to go prepare for a meeting tomorrow.
At o'clock. You guys deal with that.
Oh,
And
that's not
Brad,
that meeting. I don't have to prepare for.
We'll get it scheduled for consolidations, and I promise I'll be prepped for it.
Okay.
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 Nobody likes a liar. You made a promise. And it's recorded now.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
It's
This is
recorded.
recording.
Oh, it is
This goes
still.
in a post-credit.
I thought for some reason I stopped the recording. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
I did stop it and I started it up again.
Oh.
This is too funny.
Okay.
Too
Well-
funny.
I'll have it. I promise.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
PowerPoint.
All right.
Goodbye.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers.
Do you want me to stop the recording?
Nah. Well, yeah, because